I'm Will Beecham, ICE's Chemical Business Deputy Editor. I'm here with Paul Hodges from International Echem. Hi, Paul.
Morning, Will.
Paul, you've written us an outlook piece for 2014, and one of the really interesting elements in there is that you talk about a critical T-junction that we're reaching in society in 2013, 2014. What do you mean by that?
Exactly, Will. What I think we're saying here is that for the last 4 or 5 years, the central banks and policymakers have tried to prop up the economy and take it back to the super cycle when everyone was younger and they were buying lots and lots of stuff and demand was very strong. And they've spent about $33 trillion on this so far, which is quite a lot of cash. But they haven't got to where they expect to be. And we are facing now this T-junction where the demographic scenario is starting to come into play more and more.
Okay, and then I just wanted to ask you about signs of recovery. That there's been a lot of reports of a slight upturn in parts of Europe, and the US seems resurgent. Is this a real recovery?
I don't think so, unfortunately. We've seen this before. If you remember 2009, the G20, world's richest nations, got together in the States and issued a communique saying, we did it. Well, that was 2009, and then we had another. Every year we seem to start, well, everybody's optimistic, aren't they, to say, yes, things are going to get better. This is finally the time that it's all happening. But I see no signs of it.
We'd like to comment on, say, the state of the auto industry and the outlook of how that fits into this.
Exactly. I mean, what we're seeing is a tremendous shift in demand patterns, exactly as we described in the New Normal book that ICE's published. And the point of this is to say people have a need for mobility. They still want to be mobile. They haven't stopped doing that. But the product, the car, was the product of another era. And if you look at what's happening today, young men, for example, I mean, BMW have done some very interesting research now. Only 4 out of 5 young American men are now bothering to take a driving test. So if you're not bothering to take a driving test, that says something pretty amazing about the level of demand for cars in a few years' time. Where are your new buyers going to come from? Equally, if you're in China and Shanghai and Beijing are having to order cars off the road because of pollution routinely, what does that say for future demand? So I think the car society was a tremendous achievement in its time, but it's now moving on to something else, and we will be mobile in another way.
Just talking about that sort of changes in demand patterns, you're quoted in the Financial Times recently talking about a fight to the death in petchems. Does that tie in with these changes in demand patterns?
I think it does, actually, because what we're seeing is in the States, understandably, people are saying, look, we've got this very cheap shale gas. We ought, therefore, to be able to find a market for it. We know that oil is artificially high at the moment, and people can take different views about how long that will last. I think we're going pretty close to an end, as you know, of this period where it's been artificially high. Other people might take a different view. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter whether you have cheap feedstock or not in the States. Since 2004, ethylene production in the States has been on a downward trend, a marginally downward trend, but it's never reached the 2004 level. So you ask yourself, where is this additional 10 million tons going to be sold? And so you've got people very enthusiastic, we've got cheap product, we're going to go and sell in the world. And this is why I say it's a fight to the death in a way, because what's going to happen is this is the death of the idea that there is always going to be constant demand. You can see in China that volumes of polyethylene from the States have fallen by 50% or more since 2009. You can see that unless the entire European refining and petrochemical industry shuts down, there isn't going to be a great surge of demand. There'll be some demand in Europe, obviously, but unless those big plants shut down, there's no market for this product. So this is really a very public and a very public way of highlighting just how major these demand shifts are. Neither good nor bad, they're just there. And the people who spot them can make a lot of money out of it.
Thanks so much, Paul.
Thank you.